Well, I think the Chiefs have the formula, and they've worked it twice now. The longest pass play that Derek Carr had against them in the first game was 24 yards. Yesterday it was 8. Last night it was 18 yards. I understand. Look, I know the pinky's probably a concern, but I think the farther concern is this, is the weather was bad the first time they played them. It was really a rainy, cold day up in Oakland. This was a cold, hard to handle the football, and Carr didn't demonstrate an ability to control the football in foul weather. Is it the pinky? I don't know. But in the first game, there was no pinky problem. In this game, there clearly was a pinky problem. The ball was all over the place. You talk about drop passes. The Raiders historically this year, they're 23rd in the league in drop passes. So they do drop a lot of passes because they throw the ball so much. If you throw it a lot, you're going to drop passes. It's hard to catch it all the time. So I just think the Chiefs took that formula and they said, look, we'll let you run the football all you'd like. Enjoy it. You're not going to score. They're 1 for 4 on 4-point plays in the red zone, which meant they kicked field goals, and one time they didn't make a field goal. And the Chiefs said, if we don't give you a big play, you can't beat us. And I think the difference was, which I suspected, I said it on my podcast, Tyreek Hill. He's the difference in the game. He is Percy Harvin better. And he's been Percy Harvin better, and I think last night America saw how good of a player he is. I don't approve of that he's in the league in terms of without a suspension. I want to be on record with that. But I'm grading the player, and he is really a good player.
So I had a completely different take on last night, but I was coming from a different place you guys are coming from, because I picked the Raiders to win the West, to win last night. So I was rooting for the Raiders against all odds as the prohibitive underdog at Arrowhead. And I got to tell you, in all my years of watching football, that was as frustrating a game as I have ever watched from start to finish, because I couldn't recognize Derek Carr. And I get, you know, it could be, I don't know what it was, but it looked like because of his wounded pinky finger, he could not grip the football. Because, listen, he's got a gun. We know that. We know that. I saw him with his dislocated pinky finger in Oakland. Again, it gets a little cool at night, but not like that, not 13-degree wind chill.
No.
I saw him after he dislocated, he came back against Carolina and threw the heck out of the ball. And against Buffalo, he's throwing rockets all afternoon. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty impressive. Last night, he had little to no velocity. Have you ever seen so many lob floaters? Everything was lob floater.
It appeared like wind was a factor when it wasn't a factor.
It wasn't a factor.
Right.
Because everybody wrote
but
there
Alex
appeared no wind.
Smith's ball, I mean, his throws didn't seem like they had any problem with it at all. He was
not
throwing
at all.
The ball. He threw the ball effectively.
So everything is float, float, float. And he was throwing changeup to his receivers to the point that it looked like the receivers were a little out of sync, like the ball was coming so much slower than usual that you're a half step ahead, and the ball's coming so softly that you're not ready. Plus, as you said, they all dress. Whenever you see a bunch of receivers dressed like the Michelin Man, like you say, with all this stuff up around your neck, then they're giving in to the cold. And I'm sure it was cold. And I'm sure it was cold. It was miserably cold. And this is a quote-unquote warm weather team, but they gave into it right away, because the ball, when it did touch hands, would touch frozen hands of stone. That's what it looked like to me, right? Because I counted 9 drops in the game. That's unofficial, but Seth Roberts couldn't catch anything.
Right.
Seth Roberts had a ball in the corner of the end zone, and he goes up for it, and it's a lob floater, but he gets the ball in his hands, and he juggles it for just a second until the DB gets there and knocks it out of his hands. If you go up and snatch it and clutch it, you're going to score. And then finally, the crescendo of the night to me, when the Raiders are still hanging in because Kansas City just fell apart in the second half. They had 104 yards.
Andy Reid got really, really conservative on
He did. He went a 4-corner offense.
Okay? They made 4 first downs and 100 yards in the second half. Amari Cooper finally gets behind the DB, and for once, Derek Carr beats the rush, steps up, stops, and throws a big lob floater, but it's a touchdown. And I don't know what happened. I think he lost it. Look at this. He loses it in the lights.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Like,
it looked like
what are you doing?
It looked like the wind affected it, but there was
no wind.
There was no wind, and so
some people speculated that it hit a TV cable. I've never seen that happen. They're not that low.
TV cables aren't that. Trust me, if it hit a TV cable, it'd
if you
come
threw
right
the ball
down.
that high,
I mean, it
would come straight down.
Well, first of all, the safety blew it. They're playing 22 man. He comes down and cover one robber. He playing lurk coverage, so he blew that coverage, and that's why Peterson is looking back at it like, man, what are you doing? Yeah. Why are you robbing a shallow cross when we're playing 2 man? You're supposed to split And so that should have been an interception. First of all, if you play in the coverage, that they call on
but
the field.
against that guy, it should be a touchdown because that guy can fly.
I'm looking at the Raiders offense is like a Ferrari in Minnesota. You can only bring it out in certain conditions. And if the conditions aren't ideal, it's not functional. This offense and the way they throw the football, when they go to cold weather, they're going to struggle because everything is really predicated. They can run the football okay, but everything is really predicated on them pushing the ball down the field, getting big plays.
Right.
If they don't get big plays, they're very mediocre.
Well, that's who they are. I agree.
Aren't you both concerned? A corner from your Dallas Cowboys signed as a free agent, Mitchell, was at the Cowboys, was at the Houston Texans, has bounced around the league. He just went out there and covered those receivers.
Yeah.
Here's a kid who was on the street. They don't have their best corner out there or one of their better corners out there, and this kid comes off the street and plays really well. I think the Chiefs know how to play the Raiders.
Yeah.
I think they do. I also think it's very difficult this time of the year. You have to factor weather into your team.